Society has long celebrated strength as toughness, the ability to endure hardship without complaint, to push through pain with grit and determination. We idolize the stoic warrior, the unshakable survivor, the relentless achiever. But what if that narrow definition of strength is incomplete? What if true resilience isn't just about hardness, but about softness too? Softness, the willingness to be vulnerable, tender, and gentle with yourself, is often mistaken for weakness. Yet it is precisely this softness that allows you to heal, adapt, and grow. When you soften, you create space for self-compassion, honest reflection, and emotional flexibility. You build resilience not by hardening your heart, but by learning to hold your pain and your joy with equal care. Today, we'll unpack why embracing softness is essential for your well-being, how romanticizing toughness can actually harm you, and why you deserve the radical permission to be fully human, all parts of yourself, not just the strong ones. This is a conversation about reclaiming your wholeness and redefining what strength truly means. Quick heads up before we get into it. I'm not your therapist, and this isn't therapy. Everything here is for learning and reflection. If you need personal help, definitely talk to a pro. There's no shame in that. Our culture glorifies an ideal of unbreakable strength, the relentless push through pain, the refusal to show weakness, and the celebration of toughness at all costs. From childhood, many are taught to be strong, to hold it together, and to never let others see their cracks. This narrative elevates grit and hardness as the ultimate markers of resilience and success. But it also dangerously erases the reality of emotional pain, vulnerability, and the essential human need for connection and care. This myth creates immense pressure to mask struggles behind a facade of invulnerability. When pain and hardship arise, as they inevitably do, people often feel compelled to hide them, to avoid judgment or rejection. They push their feelings underground, wearing emotional armor that feels protective but ultimately isolates them. This mask breeds shame because it sends the unspoken message that vulnerability is failure, weakness, or personal defect. The cost of this myth is profound. Masking struggle doesn't make pain disappear. It deepens disconnection from oneself and others. People suffer in silence, believing they are alone in their difficulty. This isolation fuels loneliness and can worsen mental health struggles like anxiety, depression, or burnout. What starts as a coping strategy quickly becomes a trap that stifles healing and growth. True strength, by contrast, is grounded in authenticity. It requires self-awareness and the courage to acknowledge your vulnerabilities, fears, and needs honestly. Authentic strength means being willing to show your true self, imperfections, and all, even when it feels risky. It's about breaking down the armor rather than building it higher, trusting that you can be held and supported. Authenticity is not easy. It demands bravery to stand without pretense in a world that often rewards toughness and concealment. But it also invites deeper connection and relief. When you allow yourself to be seen as you truly are, you open the door for genuine relationships and support, the very things that sustain resilience over the long haul. This redefinition of strength acknowledges that emotional pain is part of the human experience, not a sign of failure. It reframes vulnerability as a source of power because it connects you to your true self and others. Vulnerability fosters empathy, creativity, and healing, qualities impossible behind the rigid walls of hardness. When you embrace this fuller picture of strength, you begin to dismantle the damaging cultural narrative that keeps you stuck. You reclaim permission to be imperfect, to ask for help, and to prioritize your emotional well-being. This shift creates a foundation for resilience that is both sustainable and deeply humane. So ask yourself, where in your life have you felt pressured to be strong in ways that deny your pain or needs? What would it mean to let down the armor and live more authentically? Remember, real strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being whole. Softness is often misunderstood as a lack of strength or as surrender. Yet, at its core, softness is a profound form of resilience, a deliberate choice to acknowledge your feelings and needs without judgment or suppression. It's the capacity to hold your inner experience gently, even when it includes pain, fear, or uncertainty. This compassionate stance toward yourself builds emotional flexibility, allowing you to adapt and recover from life's inevitable challenges. Acknowledging your feelings without judgment is the first step toward embracing softness. Instead of pushing away uncomfortable emotions or criticizing yourself for having them, you welcome them as valid signals from your inner world. This acceptance reduces internal conflict and creates space for healing. When you treat your emotions with kindness, you shift from self-criticism to self-compassion, which is essential for psychological resilience. Softness also involves setting boundaries, a key act of self-care and strength. Saying no when something overwhelms you or prioritizing your well-being over external demands is not selfish but necessary for sustaining energy and balance. Boundaries protect your emotional and physical resources, preventing burnout and fostering healthier relationships where your needs are respected. Asking for help is another crucial expression of softness. Vulnerability and reaching out to others for support is often seen as weakness, but it is one of the bravest things you can do. Connection with trusted individuals not only alleviates isolation, but also activates social support networks that regulate stress and promote healing. Resilience is not a solo journey. Softness invites collaboration and shared strength. Resting when needed is an act of profound softness and resilience. Our culture prizes productivity and endurance, often at the expense of rest and recovery. But the brain and body require downtime to process experiences, repair damage, and replenish resources. Recognizing your limits and honoring them through rest is a radical form of self-respect that enhances long-term resilience. Psychologically, embracing softness activates specific healing pathways in the brain. Research in effective neuroscience shows that self-compassion and gentle acceptance reduce activation of the threat response system, lowering cortisol levels and calming the nervous system. This physiological shift creates fertile ground for emotional regulation, cognitive flexibility, and social bonding, all essential components of resilience. Moreover, softness fosters deeper connection with yourself and with others. When you allow yourself to be tender, you invite others to meet you authentically, building trust and empathy. This relational safety further supports your capacity to navigate stress and adversity. In essence, softness is both a personal and interpersonal resource that sustains resilience in holistic ways. Reflect on your own life. How might embracing softness transform your approach to challenges? What feelings or needs have you been denying or judging? Cultivating softness isn't about giving up strength. It's about expanding your definition of strength to include gentleness, care, and connection, the true foundations of lasting resilience. Romanticizing toughness is a pervasive cultural narrative that paints relentless endurance and unyielding grit as the ultimate virtues. We're taught to admire those who never quit, who push through pain, and who refuse to show weakness. But this glorification often obscures the real human cost beneath the surface. When toughness becomes an idol, it sets impossible standards that can wear you down physically, emotionally, and mentally. One of the most damaging effects of idealizing toughness is burnout. Constantly pushing past limits without honoring your need for rest or emotional processing exhausts your body and mind. Burnout manifests as chronic fatigue, irritability, and a sense of emptiness that no amount of sheer willpower can fix. The myth of toughness discourages you from listening to these warning signs, convincing you to keep going at all costs. This glorification also risks reactivating trauma. When you suppress or ignore your emotional pain in the name of toughness, unresolved wounds linger beneath the surface. The nervous system remains in a heightened state of alert, primed to react with anxiety, anger, or dissociation. Rather than healing, the trauma festers, increasing your vulnerability to stress and making recovery harder. Emotional disconnection is another major consequence. The tough exterior often comes with a guarded heart, a reluctance or inability to express vulnerability and authentic feelings. This self-protection strategy might shield you temporarily, but isolates you in the long run. Without emotional connection, resilience weakens because healing and growth thrive in the presence of empathy and support. Romanticizing toughness traps you in cycles of denial and self-criticism. You might tell yourself that asking for help is a failure or that resting is a sign of laziness. These internal narratives keep you stuck, unable to acknowledge your true experience or seek the care you need. Harmful coping strategies like overwork, substance use, or emotional suppression become default responses to unrelenting pressure. Recognizing this pattern is the essential first step toward breaking free. Awareness uncovers the ways in which glorified toughness may be harming rather than helping you. It invites a more compassionate perspective, one that honors both your limits and your capacity for vulnerability. This shift is not surrender, but a wiser, more sustainable approach to resilience. Breaking the cycle requires redefining strength on your own terms. It means learning to listen to your body's signals, allowing yourself to rest and reaching out when you need support. It means embracing the full spectrum of human experience, pain and joy, weakness and power, struggle and grace, as integral parts of a resilient life. Giving yourself permission to be soft is a radical act, one that challenges deep cultural conditioning. In a world that often equates softness with weakness, choosing gentleness with yourself requires courage and defiance. It's an intentional reclaiming of your humanity, a declaration that your feelings, limits, and needs deserve respect and care. Softness begins with self-compassion, the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a close friend. It means recognizing that you are not flawed for experiencing pain, doubt, or vulnerability. Instead of harsh self-criticism or dismissal, self-compassion encourages you to hold your inner experience tenderly, reducing shame and opening space for healing. Mindfulness supports this process by inviting you to observe your thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment or urgency. Through mindful awareness, you learn to notice when you're pushing yourself too hard or reacting with self-judgment. This gentle witnessing helps you step out of reactive patterns and into intentional, compassionate choices aligned with your well-being. Gentle self-care rituals are practical expressions of softness that nurture your body, mind, and spirit. Whether it's taking quiet moments for deep breathing, engaging in restorative movement like yoga, enjoying a warm bath, or simply pausing to savor a cup of tea, these rituals signal to your nervous system that you are safe and worthy of care. Equally important is cultivating relationships and environments that honor your full emotional spectrum. Surrounding yourself with people who validate your feelings and support your boundaries reinforces your permission to be soft. Spaces that encourage authenticity rather than performance create fertile ground for resilience and growth. Allowing softness does not mean giving up strength. Rather, it completes and deepens it. Strength grounded in gentleness is sustainable, flexible, and resilient. It enables you to respond to life's challenges with presence and grace, rather than rigid endurance or exhaustion. Remember, every time you offer yourself permission to be soft, you rewrite the old scripts that told you to hide or harden. You open the door to a fuller, more vibrant experience of life, one that includes tenderness, connection, and healing, alongside courage and action. Strength without softness is brittle. It cracks under pressure, unable to bend or yield when needed. Softness without strength is fragile, vulnerable to being overwhelmed or broken. The true power lies in holding both and allowing yourself to feel deeply, to rest fully, and to heal sincerely, even as you fight, strive, and persevere. Give yourself permission to be soft. It's not a weakness or a luxury. It's a vital necessity for genuine resilience and well-being. In embracing softness, you reclaim your wholeness and open the door to a strength that is enduring, flexible, and deeply human. This is where true strength begins, in the brave balance of tenderness and courage, vulnerability and grit. Let that be your new definition of power.